Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Game Brigade. My name is Brian, and today on the show, we are going to be talking about the best late pledges that you could be looking at that launch in the month of October. That's right, we just hit November, so we went back a full month and scrounged the entire internet to find the best games that you could take a look at and see if there's something that you might have missed or late pledge. That's right. This is the In Case You Missed It show. We haven't called it In Case You Missed It in quite a while, but that's what originally it was called, In Case You Missed It, where we're going to take a look at those late pledges. So let's go into the first campaign and see what we got. So first off, this campaign is by Sweater Bear Games. This is a first-time creator, and I want to give massive props to these guys for getting 8,000 backers on their first campaign. A very, very good job. I also want to note at the very top of this page, you'll see, please note, due to the current shipping volatility, shipping costs, we won't be collecting shipping until closer to the time of shipment. So that's great. I wish most plus managers would do this. It doesn't make sense to me that they would charge shipping well before shipping is done. So anyways, Bear Mountain Camping from Sweater Bear Games, 1 to 4 players, plays about 50 to 90 minutes. If we take a look at the actual campaign page here, we can kind of talk about this game. This is a deck building game. You know me, I love deck building games. And it utilizes a resource management system where players are going to build their decks out, play cards out from their hand to generate different types of resources, and they will use those resources at these different campsites and collect things and manage those resources. The unique part about this game is that there are 2 different decks that you're building that are going to kind of dictate the way you want to strategize this, and your campsites that you visit will dictate which decks you'll be drawing from to determine your activities for the day. The goal of this game is you are going to try to visit all the campsites before you visit the Bear Mountain campsite, and the first person to do that will win the game. Now, you have to be geared up enough to actually complete the Bear Mountain camping site and that trek to the top. So there are specific cards you'll have to have, like the off-roading card and whatnot. So this looks really cute. Going through this, I was really impressed with what I saw. If you come down here to the pledge levels, you can take a look at what they have available. So for the basic base game for the Kickstarter price here, they have $39. Really good value here for Kickstarter, probably why they did so well. They have the deluxe edition plus expansion. It comes with the rough terrain and those wooden meeples. You have the deluxe all-in for $99, which includes some of those additional expansions. And then they have some retail versions, which we don't really concern ourselves with. I thought they had one more that was a little bit more expensive, but I might be mistaken. Okay, so checking this out, I don't quite see the difference. They have the VIP Special Edition, which they have. If you scroll down here, if you come down, they have the All-In Deluxe Edition KS Special 145, and it tells you right here these are optional things, but these are all optional, so these are not included as far as I'm aware. But it comes with the base game, which we already talked about, the rough terrain expansion, the extreme weather expansion, the exclusive Legends of Hall bonus game, which we can kind of talk about, wooden activity tokens, those wooden meeples, plastic trays for those tokens, and all unlocked stretch goals. So I'm not quite sure what the difference is when you come up here to this gameplay all in, because it appears instead of 7 items included, they all seem to be the same. There might be something I'm missing here, which I'm not quite sure what that is. And I don't even see, when I come over here to the pre-order page, I didn't even see the 145 even offered anymore. So this might be a moot point and not worth discussing. But anyways, this is Bear Mountain Camping Adventure, A Race to the Top. Seems like a really cute game that did very well here on... It actually funded, well, this is what launched in October. So funded at the end of August. So congrats to Sweater Bear Games on this one. Next, we are taking a look at Isofarian Guard. This is the second printing, and I actually have coverage of this, so I want to really urge you guys. I did a should you back on Isofarian Guard, so I will urge you guys to check out that video to get all the information you need on whether or not you should back this title. I gave you a full 20-minute video regarding that. But Isofarian Guard by Sky Kingdom Games is a 1 to 2 player game with about 40 minutes per session. It's a bag building adventure game. where you will be going across this world, experiencing a very deep narrative story. Now, again, I really urge you to check out the video for more information on this one. But this one I was really hyped for. I'm super excited to play the kind of the 1.5 fixes that were kind of part of this campaign. So I'm gonna play my campaign once the second edition stuff shows up. But I definitely recommend checking out my video and seeing more about Isofarian Guard. All right, so the next one, Farms Race. This is a 3 to 4 player game. Plays about 90 to 120 minutes. In Farms Race, the best that I could describe from watching these videos where they talk about this gameplay is it looks like Catan, but with wildly combative animals. What you'll be doing in this game is you'll be taking on a race of one of the species, like chickens, cows, sheep, and you will be you'll be exterminating and expanding your territory, eventually clearing out the humans that populate all these locations. You'll be gaining new technologies and abilities, and eventually you'll be getting nuclear weapons to nuke your opponents, who are going to be also nuking you. It's going to have like a nuclear arms race with a little bit of Cold War era stuff going on. So here's an example of these pigs attacking the humans and gaining their control over that location. So this game, in sense of the Catan aspect, is you got the resources, you can trade with your opponents and negotiate in that way, and eventually just cause some chaos. So it looks like a kind of a wacky competitive game. Race to 10 victory points is how you win this game. So that is Farms Race by Medium Brow Games. The next game is we have Harvest, a farming game. This is by Keymaster Games. This is 1 to 4 players and plays about 30 to 70 minutes. And this is a remake of the 2017 version from TMG. So effectively, this game is a farming game where players are going to be farming on their territory, placing these tokens from seeds that you've grown, going to different locations on the board to collect different types of resources or different types of tools or different types of structures for your farm. Very much similar to Agricola or Caverna, if those are games that are interesting you, but these have very much like those cute whimsical characters and really cute stuff for you to play with. It looks interesting. So if this is something that you're looking for, a worker placement farming game with some resource conversion, that is Harvest from Keymaster Games. Next, we have Dungeon Kart by Brotherwise Games. This is a 2 to 8 player, plays about 30 to 60 minutes. And I played this at Gen Con, so I had the opportunity to actually play this game and get an experience with it. And I would say it's a very light racing game, which they don't obviously deny that from their advertising. This is considered like a Mario Kart-like game where you'll be racing around the track, running into your opponents, shooting fireballs and things at them, whoever's in first place, as you try to complete the track in first place. Based on the speed you're going, the direction you go, you can have a wildly successful race or an awful one. So you'll have these different types of carts that you can use. There are different carts in terms of like agility or heavy, and they'll have different faces on them. And whatever gear you're in will dictate how many spaces you're going to move on the board. But if you find yourself into, like, say, a different type of terrain, if you're not in the shifter, you could find yourself spinning out or doing something weird like that. And then you can run over these tokens, and they'll usually, based on your position on the race, like if you're last place, you can get like the last place deck, which have a wildly powerful ability. And if you're in first place, you go over these, you'll have a minor ability. And those are kind of those catch-up mechanics to keep the race kind of tight and whatnot. And then you have these hazard tokens. You can have pesky bombs or zombies or heroes darting out in front of you. So let's take a look at what's available for the pledge levels. Here they only show the gold edition. I'm not sure if that's the only thing available. I guess they have the retail version, but I don't see the silver. So if we actually go to the actual Kickstarter page, we have the bronze tier. That's the retail version. And then we have the silver tier, which is $60. Then you have the gold tier. So I'm not sure if the silver tier is just not being optional option. It's just not available for people here on the Kickstarter page. But the retail version still does get the Kickstarter rewards, except for one. They have, when you look at the what's been unlocked, they tell you here what pledge level they're going to. So these are all bronze. The only one that's a silver plus is Lady Vix. So if you get the retail version, you will not be getting Lady Vix. And of course, you won't be getting those bonuses that are part of the gold and silver tier as well, of course. So that's something you can take a look at. Again, I don't know why silver's not available. That's just by their choice. So there you go, Brotherwise Games. Okay, next one we have is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice. Let's keep going up. This is by Triton Noir. This is a 1 to 4 player game, 45-minute playtime per session. And Assassin's Creed, this is an expansion to the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice game already. So I believe, from what I've seen, you need the Brotherhood of Venice game to play this. Now, that game has a Kickstarter version and a retail version, so you probably could use the retail version if you wanted to, if you wanted to save some costs there. But this is a game that will be taking place with in the Assassin's Creed universe, this time taking place in Cambodia. Assassin's Creed is a hidden movement-ish game where you're going to be using stealth to avoid the opponents and the enemies as you try to sneak your way through, assassinate your targets, and mostly try to get through to your objective undetected or eliminating opponents on the way without raising an alarm. This one takes advantage of some of these like cards like the cougar that are hunting you, or the snakes with venom, and there's a lot of poison. You can see there's a trap card here with the venom in the crocodile that if you trigger those, they could damage you in some way. I've heard great things about Brotherhood or about Assassin's Creed. I haven't played it, so I can't give you an impact in terms of the actual gameplay aspects of it. But this seems like a pretty good fleshed out version of an expansion. So if you like this world, if you like the stealth mechanics of movement, this might be something to check out. Next, we have Guilty Gear Strive, the board game by Level 99 Games. And this is a 2-player game. It takes about 15 minutes to play. And if you are a Guilty Gear fan, I think this game would clearly be for you. Watching this trailer is almost giving me like anxiety because it's so hyper-paced and whatnot. But the game is basically a dueling game where players are going to have a asymmetrical deck based on the player that you chose to play, and it's going to have all your moves and combos just like the video game would, which I think is really kind of a cool concept. And you're going to play these cards from your hand to do damage to your opponent. Now both players will play the cards that they want to play for that turn. Whoever has a faster speed will be the one that activates first. It'll check to see if your ability is within range, and then you'll do whatever the ability says. So some of these abilities might make you move, kind of have a complex combative style with that. So you can kind of, use them to counter your opponent's moves and whatnot that they can do. I like that this system in the box looks really cool in terms of how they've done it. So here's those customized decks. And inside the box, it looks like a pretty good system here. If they would go back to what I'm trying to show you. Maybe I skipped it here. I'm not sure where it went, but see what I'm talking about. It's just like watching an anime here. If you go down, they also have a bunch of other systems that are kind of in line with this that are compatible. So these are cross-compatible with the Guilty Gear Strive board game. So if you want to also pick up some of these additional things, it'd be almost like the old video games from the arcades, like Marvel versus Capcom, where you can have cross IP systems, which I think is kind of cool. It also has an acrylic standee, which I think is pretty cool and works well. Oh no, my mouse just died on me. Hold on. Okay, there we go. That was weird. Okay, and so you have those acrylic standees, which will kind of give that cool feeling. I like the way this looks. So this is a game that I personally wouldn't buy. Don't think I need it in my collection, but I wouldn't mind trying it. I think it'd be kind of cool to play it once, just based on what I see here. So that's Guilty Gear Strive, the board game from Level 99 Games. So next we have Canopy Evergreen from Weird City Games. This is a 1 to 4 player game. Takes about 20 minutes per player. And this is another outdoor game. There's a lot of outdoor games and nature games, I felt like, this month when we were taking a look at them. And so this is also a card drafting set collection game in the Canopy universe, but it uses a little bit more resource collection and tree placement. So instead of placing your tree with cards, you have the trees that are actually going to be these kind of standing up trees. They kind of will be kind of giving you that table presence a little bit. Effectively, players will draft cards from a face down pool. So there will be like a 2-card deck, a 3-card deck, a 4-card deck. You'll take a look at it. If those cards are something you want to draft, you'll take them. If not, you will put them back face down and add another card to that pile, growing it for the next player that maybe wants to draft them, and you'll go to the next pile. And eventually you're going to be trying to get cards that have different types of combinations on them, or victory point scoring, and you're going to try to win. But unfortunately, there could be wildfires inside those cards. So if you draw a wildfire card, it has a negative aspect to it. But if you draw enough wildfires, it'll actually start impacting your opponents and kind of helping you. So there's some gameplay elements of trying to draft those wildfires. So this kind of talks about what's new here. If you want to take a look at that, if you're interested in the Canopy system, I would highly encourage you to check a look at this. And let's go down to the pledge level so you can get an idea of what we're talking about in terms of cost. So you have those Kickstarter Deluxe items as well. So let's we just do this. So in terms of the deluxe edition, it's $55. It's a pretty standard, good price for a game like this. So it might be worth checking it out if this is something for you. This is Canopy Evergreen from Weird City Games. The next one we're going to take a look at, here should be Marrakesh. Here we go. Marrakesh, Camels and Nomads. Marrakesh is a 1 to 4 player game. This is an expansion to Marrakesh. And Marrakesh plays in about 90 to 120 minutes. So Marrakesh, I just actually had the opportunity to play this game not that long ago, so I can kind of talk about it. So Marrakesh is a game where you are going to be building out your, I don't know what the thing is, but you're basically playing these little keshis, these colored little these tokens to different locations to gain different types of bonuses, either building out your bridges or your date farms or this carnival thing. So you're going to be drafting keshi from a tower, this tower actually right here, and placing them in these locations and getting different types of victory points. This is a Euro game to the max. So if you have an idea that there's a lot of different types of things that you can be doing to gain different types of victory points, it's a Euro game in that sense. So if we go back up, we can actually talk about what the Camels does, and then we can talk about what the Nomads does. So Camels is an expansion, a little modular system where you can race your camel around the track by placing keshi that you've drafted into this seats selection, I guess, by placing different colored keshi. So you are drafting those keshi, and instead of utilizing them for your board, you'll be placing them here to get some bonuses. But as your camel races around, you're going to be collecting bonuses and victory points for being the fastest along. But you're going to have to be feeding your camel some dates and water to keep them moving to ensure you keep getting those victory points. The Nomads is an additional expansion, which these guys become kind of like a wild expansion that you can utilize their things in a lot of different spots, and you can also move them after you've collected a resource. You can then place them somewhere else. So this is a really cool one. I think the Nomads are super great. I would almost utilize this in every single game. Camels, who knows? It depends on how it plays and whatnot, and see how it adds in. But yeah, this is a great game overall. If you really like Euros, it's a pretty fun game in that regards, from Queen Games. And they actually have a couple of different rewards. So if we go back here, you can get the deluxe edition if you have the deluxe version of the game. Yeah, see, they make this pledge manager just look so hard. You can't see what you want to show them. Well, some in here you'd have to, I guess they want you to just go straight to the pledge manager after you pledge, which is interesting. Maybe there's a reason for that. I'm not sure why. But yeah, that's Marrakesh, Camels, and Nomads from Queen Games. So the next one we have is Rogue Angels from Sun2's Games. And this is a 1 to 4 player cooperative kind of spacey game. Plays in about 60 to 120 minutes. And I actually have done a first impression of this game when it was originally on crowdfunding about like a year ago. It canceled its pledge, or it canceled its campaign at that time. It didn't fund. And so I enjoyed it. So basically in this game, it's think Mass Effect, and I hate how people always do that, where we think of like a sci-fi game that's narrative and we go Mass Effect, but it is the easiest way for me to reference it, because you are going to be going through a narrative experience that is very much story driven. And you can see here they kind of give an example of how a story would play out in the decisions that you make based on what's happening, which will then again adjust the way the gameplay goes. There are also personality things that you can unlock and earn relationships with your characters. So you have these personality and relationship track, which is kind of interesting, kind of what changes the way the game can play. You have the different types of abilities and whatnot. So this game was worth checking out if you are a sci-fi fan, if you like those kind of games and you like narrative campaigns. I would also highly recommend checking out my first impressions video to give you my take on the game that I played at that time, to get you really, a good view on this one. So that's Rogue Angels from Sun 2's Games. Next, we have Railways of the Lost Atlas. This is by Asterix Games. It's plays about 1 to 5 hours, which is a huge variable. 1 to 5 hours is huge, and is a 2 to 5 player game. And this game is designed to satisfy basically diehard train gamers, and also trying to invite new gamers into the system by trying to be innovative of the 18X system. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you read through this campaign, they are very much leaning heavily on this modular map design. There's a huge emphasis on this and the different types of strategies and gameplay variants that you can come through this. I would almost say the modularity of the map is their biggest pulling point to this game, because other than that, it feels very much like a standard 18X game. So an 18X game is generally their high variable economic management games, where you're trying to raise the value of your company by acquiring different types of stocks or reinvesting it in your company, eventually merging with smaller companies. So basically in this game, you will be taking on the role of an individual investor, launching a company, building infrastructure and generating revenue to increase your stocks, like we talked about. So they also talked about a micro game. Because of the small scope of the map, you could play these micro games that are beneficial for people who are new to the 18X environment. If you want to play a game that might teach you a little bit more of how this world works without getting into that 5-hour gameplay element, that is an option. And they mentioned that these are generally two-player micro games. So that's something you can check out. I personally have yet to play an 18X game, and I think it's funny because they are so drab in terms of the look and design of the tiles, and I think it's funny because they actually talk about how beautiful this gameplay is. And so maybe I'm just not an 18X person and I don't understand the way these look, but I think it's pretty fun right here. Not to mention the design is beautiful with historical illustration mixed with rich textures and plenty of original custom graphics. I'm so used to big fantasy style campaign games with art that you would imagine in terms of like dragons and knights and whatnot. So I see this and I just think that's funny when I read design is beautiful with historical illustrations. Gave me a little bit of a chuckle. So there you go. That is Railways of the Lost Atlas. The next, we should have Joyride, Survival of the Fastest from Rebellion Unplugged. This is a 2 to 4 player racing game. Plays about 45 to 60 minutes. And if we go back over here, basically I saw this was like Heat crossed with Twisted Metal, Mad Max theming. And I actually think this looks maybe more fun than Heat. I know people are really, really in love with Heat, but I like the idea that this is presenting. Players are going to be racing around this track, eventually trying to win, but by doing so, you are going to have to manage your acceleration and your speed, and also the other players that are ramming into you and the obstacles they create. And I love the idea that if you hit someone, they spin out, so they're going to have to, adjust and find themselves back on track. Seems like a wildly crazy race that you could do. So in terms of the pledge levels, you can select your pledge level here. You have 30 pounds for the next gen version, 50 pounds for the survival the fastest, and 100 pounds for the Joyride turbo boosted. And again, whenever you have questions on what those are, I would always recommend to kind of come back to the campaign page. That's why I always bring these open and take a look at what they're talking about. So Dual Next Gen is a 2-player only game. Survival the Fastest is the ideal game for 2 to 4 players. This looks like the standard game. And then you have this Joyride pledge that includes a bunch of stuff down here. You can actually used to be able to, sometimes if you go here with the rewards now, this is new to Kickstarter, where you can actually go here. They're kind of copying what GameFound does now, and so you can actually see what is included here more clearly in those reward pledges. So I think that's really cool. So you can check that out, and they also have those optional add-ons, letting you know that they have the deluxe wooden gate tokens are something you can purchase. So that's Joyride Survival of the Fastest. Okay, so this one is Kreel Manor, Citadels of Horrors, the dungeon card game. And I could basically, when I was looking through this guy, this looks like just a card-driven dungeon crawl game. This is a 1 to 3 player cooperative game from All or Nothing Productions. Really just a card game that is utilizing this mechanic here of the fight, like influence, and I don't know what the other one is. It's like barter or something. And you're going to be, as you go through the dungeon trying to get to the location, you're going to get a drawn card that's going to be something you're going to have to affect. And these cards, if you use, say, fight, it's going to go to the bottom of your available action order, which means it's going to be the weakest card now comparatively, because everything slides more powerful. So you can't rely on one strategy to win your way through the assets and to beat the different types of villains. You're going to have to utilize all three if you want to get them powered up. So you have to make sure you are planning well through the system. So I wish I could give you a better introduction. I would recommend watching some of these videos that seem to be in-house to give you an idea of what this game is. But yeah, it's very much a card-driven dungeon crawling game that is set in a world. Like, this is a prequel to this universe that they have created. I have not played anything from this company, so I can't give you an idea of what the system's like or the world and universe it comes from. Okay, so the next one we have Perch, and this one I actually really think is really cute, and very much nearly made me lay pledge it just by researching this game and getting it ready for you. So this is Perch from Inside Up Games. This is a 2 to 5 player game. Effectively, it's an area majority bag building king of the hill game. So what does that mean? What do I mean by that? Well, you are going to be placing birds into a bag, and you're going to be drawing birds out from that bag, and you're going to be placing those birds into different types of locations to gain rewards or cause different types of conflicts. Now, when you draw that bag out, you might not draw any of your own birds. You might draw all your opponent's birds. You're going to have to be placing your opponent's birds on these different types of locations and gaining those rewards for them. But you're also going to dictate, what's going to happen. So it seems like a highly interactive game. Could cause a lot of fun if you have the right kind of player group that really enjoys those kind of boisterous activities. I think that'd be kind of cool. And you're basically competing for the highest spots on the roost. You can check out the campaign page over here, and we can go to the rewards and see what is available. It seemed like a pretty well costed game. So we have here 49 Canadian dollars. It's 37 USD. Gets you 1 copy of Perch, including any of the Kickstarter gifts. So you can check that out. And then you have a bunch of different types of things that you can add on if you would like to add those on to your game. But yeah, this game seemed like a really well costed game. A lot of good gameplay videos that you could check out as well. I was very much highly drawn to this one, and it might be just because the birds are so cute, and they actually have you see a little they stack on each other, so you actually be stacking your birds up and they kind of growing them up. It's kind of cool. So that will be coming up to our final game on this list. And I also covered this one. This is Conqueror Empire Rises by Kashan Arts. It's a 2 to 6 player game. Basically, this is a historical conflict game. So first off, there's a realm of gamers out there who love historically accurate or thematic games, this is kind of one of those games. And I did a coverage of this one too, so I recommend you checking out my first impressions review of Conqueror. I've actually covered Conqueror twice. I covered the first time it came out, kind of just as a retail version, and now I've covered the Empire Rises Kickstarter version here, or gamefound. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, so this is a historical conflict along the Mediterranean Sea. Conqueror will basically pit players against each other as you take on roles of historical factions. So you have Rome, Carthage, Egypt, Gaul, Persia, I believe. And so you're going to have all these different factions, and you are going to expand your territory either by trying to control key points on the map that are going to give you victory points, or you're going to have a mission card that'll basically tell you what your faction's goal is to complete. So usually that will cause conflict between players. So if you're playing Rome, it might be to conquer both Carthage and Egypt. Two very difficult things to do, but it's something is doable. So things like that. So there are different types of victory points you can do. This campaign also offered a lot of, they basically changed the game into a much more strategically depth game, which I think is cool. Added in a kind of like a faction board, which had construction that you can deal with, and then there was a board, this thing right here, where you this one right here, where you have different types of buildings that you can build to customize your board a little bit more, to make it a little bit more asymmetrical. But it's stuff that's also available to all the players until resources run out. So that is Empire Rises, Conquer Empire Rises from Cash and Arts, and that'll be wrapping up our late pledge. So let's go back to the main camera. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We really like to dive into these late pledges to find the games that you guys might be most interested in and give them kind of a second look before, you know, the next wave of games comes in. So if you appreciate this video, please, let's get this video over 100 likes. I'd like to see some support on that end. Help us with the YouTube algorithm. And if you're new to the show, if you appreciate these deep dives, or deep dives, not really deep dives, but if you appreciate me going over these late pledges, let me know by subscribing and joining the community. We just broke 8,000 subscribers, so thank you for that, for everyone who's been joining. My name is Brian, and I will talk to you very soon.